Now, Defence Secretary Grant Shapps has issued a warning to the Houthi rebels in Yemen that Britain is prepared to take direct action if attacks on commercial shipping continues. The warning comes after the US Navy destroyed 3 small boats attempting to board a container ship in the Red Sea over the weekend. And joining us now to discuss this in the studio, this escalating situation, is our reporter Charlie Peters. Charlie, a significant ramping up of the rhetoric from Grant Shapps, saying that the Houthi terrorists are drinking in the Last Chance saloon.
Yes, and this is a shift not only in rhetoric but also potentially in posture, because Britain is part of that US-led Operation Prosperity Guardian maritime force inside the Red Sea, seeking to defend those key shipping lanes. 22,000 transit routes were made through that area, past the Strait of Hormuz, and of course up the Suez Canal in 2022. 12% of the world's cargo goes through this area, so it's an absolutely key area, especially amid global inflation concerns, particularly important, of course, for us in Britain, which is one of Rishi Sunak's key pledges. But the threat to that shipping has re-emerged in the last month or so, with the Houthis stepping up their attacks on commercial shipping beyond random drone and missile attacks into targeted and also some interceptions with small boats and personnel, with the US destroying 3 boats on Sunday. Now, if the UK is saying it, it's possibly the case that the US is doing it, because what will that actually mean? Should we go further to deter this Houthi action, as Grant Shapps is saying in the Telegraph this morning? That'll almost certainly mean strikes on Houthi missile launch sites within Yemen. Now, inside Yemen, the Houthis, this rebel militia, they've had de facto control of the country for the last 8 years, fighting in a civil war which is currently enduring a tenuous ceasefire with the internationally recognized government. But they have expanded their capabilities, usually firing within the country, occasionally launching strikes on Saudi Arabia and also the UAE, but instead now launching into the Red Sea, taking on some of the most powerful navies in the world. And the US invited some 20 nations to join that maritime coalition. Now, Britain has been the chief force there, along with the French. So if this now turns from a defensive posture into an offensive one, those strikes will be significant, because it could not only engage with more tensions with Iran, but could lead to an even stronger response from those Houthi rebels.
And that's the danger if Iran start wading in. We saw in the 70s with the OPEC crisis, this is the key route for the exportation of oil to the UK. There could be an escalation of prices there, as we saw with Ukraine, and also a huge amount of consumer goods coming through that shipping canal there. So higher prices for Britain. But Charlie, the bigger worry is, could this flare into an escalated, broader military conflict in the Middle East involving Britain?
Yeah. Well, many analysts are saying that whatever Britain does, that is seeing as more likely an option than any other. Because if you keep playing in a defensive position, eventually your opposition is going to score a goal. The Houthis keep ratcheting up their attacks, their tactics and procedures are changing. They are being bolder, as you said, especially in the last month. At some point, British or American service personnel could be put at even more risk. Now, alternatively, they could be seeking to deter the strikes by going on the offensive, hitting those missile launch sites. But there is a competing school of thought, and I spoke to Chris Doyle, director of the Council for Arab-British Understanding this morning, who said to me that the only credible response to reducing these tensions with Iran is a lasting ceasefire in Gaza. Now, the maritime organisations seeking to deter these attacks and free up those shipping lanes are trying to make a distinction between Israel's war in Gaza and their keenness to defend shipping lanes. That's how they get more international support. Because, of course, as this war rages on, more and more countries are expressing concern about civilian casualties in Gaza. They want to protect shipping and fight against Iranian proxies who are involved in that war without supporting Israel. Maintaining that distinction is a very delicate political manoeuvre, and so far, to be frank, it's not working.
Okay, superb analysis. As ever, Charlie Peters, thank you for joining us in the studio.